Hey everyone, it's Drew from Drew's Book Reviews. Today we are talking about a non-fiction book, believe it or not. Stay tuned while we discuss a crack in creation, gene editing, and the unthinkable power to control human evolution. Alright, so A Crack in Creation by Jennifer A. Doudna and Samuel H. Sternberg. So these are two scientists. They're biogeneticists, whatever their term is. I'm probably getting that wrong. But they are definitely two research scientists that work with the gene code and genetics. And they discovered this incredible reality, or this credible feature of our individual cell's immunity system called CRISPR, which is clustered, regular, interspersed palindromic repeats. Obviously CRISPR is a lot easier to say, but they discovered this within our cell's ability to defend itself from viruses. And this led to an astonishing discovery of how CRISPR works to basically eliminate or destroy the genetic information of a virus. And this led to the discovery of being able to basically cut and paste our gene code, and the ability to manipulate and change our genes at will in a very highly directed way within the human genetic code or plant biologies for crops and farm yields or livestock. And the ramifications of this discovery is what this book is really about. And definitely it's something that is of interest to me, and I have to say that I really enjoyed it and I learned a lot by reading it. It is definitely written in a way that is understandable to the layman such as myself with respect to how the CRISPR technology works and what it is, where it came from. And it's really interesting because the authors, Jennifer Doudna and Samuel Sternberg, they by no means meant to or embark on the research with the intent to create a technology that would have such ramifications. They were simply studying how cells defend themselves from viral invasion. And that's when they discovered this segment of the cell referred to as CRISPR, clustered regular interspaced palindromic repeats. Let's just say CRISPR to keep it simple, shall we? But yeah, I mean, essentially this really delves into the nature of CRISPR technology, what it means for us as individuals, what it means for the world, the scientific community at large, discussing the great potential for some incredible benefits to humanity, but also a stern warning for the potential of how CRISPR could be used for evil, not just good. And so Jennifer Doudna here and Samuel Sternberg found themselves swept up in this avalanche that came after their discovery, and going from the scientific lab studies into this world of ethical, moral, philosophical debates surrounding the technology that came about as a result of their discovery. But beyond that, there's definitely some things that I really learned from reading this that I absolutely enjoyed with respect to the whole CRISPR technology. One of them being chromothripsis, which I'd never heard of before, essentially the spontaneous shattering of a chromosome leading to repair and rearrangement of genes, which effects could be trivial, they could be deadly. And they tell a few stories about how some people were somehow cured of genetic disease as a result of this natural process of chromothripsis that just happened to happen at random, and the way the genes were repaired, the genetic information was repaired, led to them no longer having these debilitating diseases. So it kind of showed that changing the gene code could actually affect a cure, and it does happen naturally. I also learned some information, such as 8% of our genetic code is the result of retroviruses from our ancestral evolution, because viruses effectively invade the cells and imprint their own DNA in the cells, so when the cells replicate, they're replicating the virus, not themselves, essentially. So that was really, really interesting. And also that the Cas9 protein, which is part of the whole CRISPR, was actually originally derived from flesh-eating bacteria. And the book goes on to raise some really interesting moral and philosophical discussions relating to CRISPR. The good, the bad. Should we resurrect extinct species using CRISPR technology? Do we have a moral obligation to do so if those species have gone extinct as a result of our own activities and behaviors within this world? Is it morally right or justified to do so, or should we just leave them in the past? So there's a lot of questions, and also if we're going to resurrect past extinct species, which ones do we resurrect? Do we allow things like designer pets, designer babies? Should we be manipulating our gene code not just to repair damage to our gene code and eradicate genetic disease, which is very possible with this technology as it continues to be further developed, or is there a moral or ethical line that we should not cross, which is manipulating our genetic information at the time of conception? Should we put limits to what kind of gene modifications should or can be done? And just some really interesting questions that arise from this. And she actually told this really interesting story about a dream that she had as she was getting all wrapped up in all this CRISPR tech and the craziness going on and the moral and philosophical debates that happened. So I'll just read to you this dream that she had. It says, in this particular dream, a colleague approached me and asked if I'd be willing to teach somebody how the gene editing technology worked. I followed my colleague into a room to meet this person who was shocked to see Adolf Hitler in the flesh seated in front of me. He was meticulously prepared for our meeting, with pen and paper ready to take notes. Fixing his eyes on me with keen interest, he said, I want to understand the use and implications of this amazing technology you developed. His terrifying appearance and sinister request were enough to jolt me awake. As I lay in the dark, my heart racing, I couldn't escape the awful premonition with which the dream had left me. The ability to refashion the human genome was a truly incredible power, one that could be devastating if it fell into the wrong hands. The thought frightened me even more because by this point, CRISPR had been widely disseminated to users around the globe. And so, just that thought that CRISPR could be used, or what people like Hitler could have done with CRISPR technology, it was terrifying to her. And to think about, it really is a scary concept on what it could be used for. So how do we, a technology that was virtually discovered by accident almost, how do we harness this power to edit and manipulate the gene code? And it's interesting that that's brought up because one of my favorite timelines or storylines in the Star Trek universe is this idea of the eugenics wars, in which a race of super soldiers was bred, and Earth basically went to war with their own creation, the super soldiers. And eventually eugenics and genetic engineering of the human genome were outlawed. And the question we have to ask is, do we take measures to prevent that from happening now? Or do we just take measures to stop it from happening again after it's already happened? That is ultimately the question we have to ask ourselves, because this is a very, very powerful technology. How do we use this for our own good? And I'll just leave it at that. So those are my thoughts on A Crack in Creation, a fantastic read if you want to know about CRISPR, if you want to know about gene editing technology and the ramifications of it. This book poses some very interesting philosophical questions. The debate rages on. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this if you've read it, what you think of it, and what your thoughts are on the whole idea of genetically engineering our own genome and manipulating that, whether good or bad. What kind of limits you think should be put on it. But until then, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until then, keep on reading. See you next time. Bye.